He picked a breakout player for every 30 all 30 teams, and the guy that he came up with for the Cardinals and was interesting because it's the guy that they got in the Rule 5, Wilking, the right-handed guy's throwing really, really hard. And he definitely entered camp as one of the most intriguing guys. Do you think he really, in your opinion, is he a legitimate breakout guy? In other words, that could really surprise all of us?
Yeah, Bernie, the Cardinals wanted to sign him all throughout last season. They tried one, they tried twice, they tried three times. They could not work out a buyout with his Mexican. They really wanted him, and they thought, well, okay, we'll just wait until after the season and we'll sign him. Well, the day the season ended, the Yankees signed him. So, that's two major league teams that really wanted this guy. He's got a little Nestor Cortez. He turns sideways to second. He hides the ball really well, and then when it comes out, it's something else. I mean, it's a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. It's got some cut to it, and then he's got quite a curveball. He struck out almost two batters an inning in the Mexican League. You never know about the quality there, but he's an intriguing guy, and for a team that's looking for swing and miss, he could be that guy who could bring it because he comes 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and like I said, he kind of turns towards second. They're working on his delivery now. He's down to 1-2 as opposed to early in the camp. I think he was like 1-4 to the plate, which, runners would run all over him. So they're working on that delivery. But he's a guy who hides the ball, and he gets striking, a lot of swing and miss so far in camp.
And I'm in the bad habit of just referring to him as Wilking. That's his first name. I just like to say Wilking. But no, look, when they sign him, I'm not going to be a phony, even though I know they've had some success internationally with pitchers. I kind of shrugged. I mean, I didn't say they did anything bad or stupid, but I just kind of shrugged. Like, I didn't know what it meant. Well, what you just said in some of the other reports, there's a lot there. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how he does this entire spring. Hey, John, I just want to ask you one question about some of the new rules. And Jason Stark had a note on Twitter about how at this point last year in spring training, the average games lasted 3 hours and 1 minute. At the same point this year, it's 2 hours and 39 minutes. Should we make too much of that this soon, or are you encouraged that it looks like we can count on some shorter games this year?
Bertie, I think these guys are professional athletes. Like, athletes know that you always have to adapt. You have to adjust. Dinosaurs were on Earth and the meteors came. You have to adjust. You can't be a dinosaur. In our business, their business, you have to adjust. You have to adapt. Does it feel faster? Yes. Does it feel too fast? I don't think so. I mean, ideally, I think they could have gone 20 seconds with nobody on base and 25 with somebody on base. I just think at the end of the day, guys are going to adjust. And, the Cardinals have Adam Wainwright, who works really fast. They have Miklasz, who works really fast. Steven Matz is a fast worker. So I don't think it's going to bother those guys. Is it going to bother Gallegos late in the eighth inning with runners on second, third? Sure it is. But he's going to have to adjust. And, I don't think it's that different when I'm watching the game. But then you look up, the first two Cardinal games were 226, and that was with the home team trailing and having to bat in the ninth. So, the Astros and Nats the other day had a game that was 206, and the home team batted in the bottom of the ninth. So that game probably would have gone 155, somewhere in there. It's weird. When it's going on, I don't feel like it's that much quicker, but then you look up at the end of the day, and, I think these guys are understanding that 25 minutes, it was 25 minutes shorter on average last season in the minor leagues. 25 minutes is nothing in one day. But when you talk about 7 days in a row or playing 13 out of 14, that adds up. That's a lot of wear and tear that is going to help guys. A couple of the catchers, their eyes lit up when they saw how much time that is. Maybe over a 7-game homestand, 25 minutes a night is significant. So I think there are going to be issues. I think some fans are not going to like it. When I was a fan back in the day, I never once said, I want to get out of here sitting in a game. I never wanted to leave. But now, I think fans will adjust. I think, we all have kids and jobs, and we have to get up early the next morning. And I think there's going to be a sizable number of fans who are going to be pleased with it.
Yeah, I was reading a piece during the winter warm-up, and I take that back. It was late last season when MLB gave the put out the notice that they were going to be instituting all this stuff. And I remember reading some quotes from Nolan Arenado, and I was kind of smiling because I just like the fact that a player made this point. He said, well, I don't get it in a way, because it's like you go to the ballpark because you love the experience, you love the game. It's it's a fun night out. It's like, so why do you want to make it shorter? And I thought, well, he's got a point.
Yeah.
But I think people watching at home, and I can say maybe this applies to me, I actually don't want to sit around for 3 hours and 15 minutes. I'm good if it's 2:35 or 2:45. But I do agree, at the ballpark, it's kind of like let the good times roll. I can understand maybe that would diminish some of the buzz if you're live and you're down there live at the ballpark. So, like you mentioned, I get it. Hey, John, I want to ask you this: the other aspect about the pitch clock and everything, these things, is anecdotal evidence, just reading stuff, and I know you read stuff from all around the MLB, but it seems to be bugging the hitters as much, if not more, than the pitchers. Maybe not me, but I'm talking about myself. Maybe I underestimated what this meant for the hitters. They seem to be fussing a little bit.
You know, Bernie, when this first came in last year, Miles Miklasz was so mad. He's like, stop calling it a pitch timer. Call it a hit timer. He's like, I'm on the rubber. I'm ready to go. He believes the same thing. And we all know Skip Schumacher. We kind of joke with Ali Marmol. Cardinal fans remember Skip Schumacher on that World Series team. Step out, fix his batting glove, pull, tug here, and then get in the box. Like, he couldn't do that anymore. And I agree. I think it's going to affect the hitters. It's going to affect the hitters just as much. I do think conditioning is going to come into play for some pitchers. If you're pitching in August and, you're in a stretch where you have runners on, it's going to affect conditioning for pitchers. But I think it's going to ruffle the feathers of hitters more than anything. And probably 60-70% of the violations we've seen so far are on hitters. So, they're going to have to get in the box. There's not going to be a lot of regrouping between pitches. And like you said, it's going to affect hitters maybe more than pitchers.
I saw the video of Max Scherzer talking about this earlier this week, and I'm a big Max Scherzer fan, and I think he's maybe one of the smart – like if you put a short list, like who are the 5 smartest players in baseball, he'd be on that very short list. And he loves it because he's like, hey, I dictate the pace now. I'm in charge. And hitters can't be, stepping out and, taking their gloves off and strolling around home plate. Mm-hmm. And he said, I love it. The dynamic favors the pitcher, and I think he's right. If Max Scherzer says that, then I'm convinced that it's true. And if Miles Michaelis says that, I'm convinced that it's true. So that's going to be fun to watch the hitters squirm a little bit, because I never know. I didn't know what happened when they tried to force them to stay in the box and said it was going to be a rule, and they forgot about it a minute later. And it's about time they make them just stand in the box a little bit. I really mean that. So this is going to be fun to what you said. Watching everybody adapt to this. Most will adapt very well, but there'll be some people that won't.
It was maddening last season to see guys. The one tactic on Miles Michaelis was to step out of the box, to call timeout right before he's going to throw the ball, and
right.
That was a tactic of teams, and no fan wants to see a guy step out of the box. Like, if you're into competition, you want to see Nolan Arenado against Max Scherzer, and you want to see them going at one another. You don't want to see one of them, cat and mouse, stepping out of the box and tying his shoe and stuff like that, but. That's Mickey Mouse games. Let's just play baseball and get in the box and go at a guy. So he doesn't have time to take a breath. You don't have time to take a breath, and it just comes down to sheer competition. So, that's what baseball fans want, I believe, deep down.
John Denton with us from MLB.com. John, you know more than me, and you know more than most people because you covered all those games last year, and you know well that the Cardinals are an excellent base running team. They're a smart but aggressive base running team. They steal bases. They have a really high percent of success under Mike Schilt and now Ali Marmol. How do you envision the new rules helping the Cardinals? They're already an outstanding base stealing team and an outstanding base running team. With the limiting the pickoffs and the step offs and all that stuff, or holding the ball. How much of an advantage will that give a team that's already good at this, like the Cardinals?
Yeah. Yeah, Bernie. I mean, if you look at the numbers from last season, MLB research says in the minor leagues last season, stolen base attempts went up 26%. So Tommy Edman said the other day, he said, okay, I stole 25 bases, 26, 25%. Should put him at 45, 40, 50 bases, somewhere in there this season. So probably 40 bases there, what he said. But, everybody's expecting to run more. And, as a guy who grew up loving base running and stolen bases and going from first to third, I'm so excited it's going to bring that back into the game. I think more than anything, fans want to see movement. They want to see competition. They want to see a guy going from first to third and the right fielder trying to throw him out at third. And, like you said, the Cardinals are an excellent base runner. I always thought Scott Rowland, one of the most hidden things about Scott Rowland was the way he ran bases. He may have been the greatest base runner I've ever seen until Paul Goldschmidt came along. And, watch the way Paul Goldschmidt runs. He hits the base
Excellent.
on the inside corner with his right foot every time. He's that maniacal about it, and he works with guys. And Stubby Clapp works with guys about the way they run bases. And like you said, the Cardinals are a good base running team, and I think, with the new rules, I think it's going to make them a great base running team. It's another area where they can get an edge going forward.
Yeah, the last two seasons, Tommy Edman's third in the majors in stolen bases, 62. But his success rate's 88.5%. I mean, I just keep thinking, well, if he was that good, that great, I should say, with none of these rules in place that's going to promote base running and aggressive base stealing, if he could be that successful under the old way, what does it mean for 2023? I mean, maybe I'm getting carried away. I mean, the Cardinals haven't had they haven't had a guy steal 40 bases or more since Greg Jeffries, I think, back in 93, I think, yeah. And he had 46, and then I'm sorry, man. So what I'm saying is, I think Tommy Edman's a cinch to get to 40, and I don't think 50's out of reach. And this presumes that he's stays healthy and plays and he doesn't have any long absences, things like that. I think 50's got to be in reach.
Bernie, one of the most endearing qualities of Ollie Marmol is he knows he doesn't know everything. So he's not afraid to put other people at the front of the room and let them talk. And the other day he had the whole team together, and he brought his AAA guys up, and he said, okay, how did the rules affect you? Where are the places you can get edges? Where are the places where it hurts you? And he had the AAA guys, Matthew Liebetor, Alec Burleson, Juan Yepes, the guys who have been through the rules, tell it to the veterans. And, they have a unique experience. Usually you don't let AAA guys even utter a word unless they're spoken to. He put them at the front of the room and told them, here's where you can get an advantage, such as if you're on base and the clock is going down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you could almost get a running start to steal the next base. If you see a pitcher letting the clock run down, when he has to throw it, you can get a jump. So little things like that. I give Ollie credit. He's not a guy who knows it all, and he'll tell you that. So he put the AAA guys and says, where can we find the edges with these new rules? Where can we gain advantages? And, I think the Cardinals have a pretty good idea of where they can, maybe get some edges with the new rules.
No doubt about it. So, I'm telling already. I mean, I'm not like sitting here watching all these spring training games, but just kind of keeping up on everything. And just the way the Cardinals are constructed, these new rules, I think, really favor them. I think the only question is that, can a guy like Adam Wainwright, when he's got to pitch at a faster tempo more than he's used to, and he works quick, but Waino's also a wily guy in that he when it makes sense for him maybe to catch his breath or just to keep make the hitters impatient or whatever, he likes to hold on. He did. He liked to hold on to the ball. It was a good part of his strategy. So I wonder about that. I wonder about the recovery time with pitchers when they have to work fast now, even if they don't want to. That's kind of an X factor for me. I don't know if pitchers, this will take steam out of them and maybe lead to shorter starts. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it very well could. I think it's going to tell which pitchers are in shape and which pitchers aren't. It's if you get a couple of runners on and you have to face 4 or 5 guys in a row, and it's going to work into the conditioning. And one of the things that Adam Wainwright hates more than anything is the 5 and dive. The way the new starter mentality is, 5 and get out of there, 5 and dive. But it's going to cut some starts short. If you go through one of those innings where you throw 35 pitches, 38 pitches, pitchers are going to have to be in better condition. They may not last longer. They may not last more than 5, 6 innings as opposed to where they used to go 7. It's going to show the pitchers that are in shape. It's going to show the pitchers who can deal with the rules. But Ollie's tried to convince his guys, hey, focus on baseball. Baseball's still the hard part. Baseball's still the important part. You do that part right, and the clock will eventually go away. You'll adapt to the clock if you get the other stuff right.
John Denton, I was really happy. I love MLB Pipeline or the prospect rankings. I think MLB.com does a great job. So they had the updated Cardinals prospects top 30. And the thing that jumped out at me, you look at their top 12 prospects. We were talking about it earlier in the show. 5 of the 12 are 20 years old or younger. I mean, I don't recall my time tracking the Cardinals where they had that many guys that young, like very high up on their best prospect list. That's a really cool thing.
Yeah. Bernie, I think we're going to look back at the 2020 draft. Like we all know, the pandemic was going on. Scouts couldn't get out on the road. In 2 or 3 years, the Cardinals are going to look back at the 2020 draft as one of the pivotal moments of this franchise. While everybody was drafting college kids and they didn't want to take a chance on high school kids, the Cardinals went out and took Jordan Walker. They took Mason Wynn, Alec Burleson, and King Kemp. Like that, those are cornerstones of the franchise for the next 10 years. And that's a draft that's going to shape the future of this franchise. And there were a lot of teams that maybe hadn't done their homework and the scouts couldn't get out on the road. They just took the college kids that they knew about. The Cardinals already had the proverbial, hay in the barn. They already saw these guys. They already knew these guys. They got 4 pillars there that are going to be a part of this franchise for the next 10 years going forward. I really think that 2020 draft is going to shape their future for years to come.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And the Cardinals are just traditionally very good at this, and they've kind of ramped it up to even a little bit of a higher level lately. So I had Bill DeWitt Jr. on the other day, and we talked about that. And then this is what they do. This is what they believe in. And people like me might say, hey, you got to be a little more aggressive. Maybe you need to make a trade, need to sign a guy, need to do a little more. Mm-hmm. But their model's been outstanding. Yeah, we can point to things that we wish they would do differently, but to rip the model is really dumb because the model is excellent. And this has been proven for the last, last 23, 24 years.
Yeah, Bernie, I think they're really fortunate to still have Randy Flores on staff. Like Randy Flores heads up the scouting department. Randy Flores is going to run a baseball team one of these days. You talk to him and you're just blown away at how intelligent he is, how level-headed he is, and who knows, he may be the successor behind Mo. John Mozeliak talked recently after signing his extension about the process of creating his successor. The path for his new successor needs to start. If that person turns out to be Randy Flores, you can rest assured the Cardinals will be in good hands because, they don't get Jordan Walker without Randy Flores. Randy Flores was the guy who did the meet and greet with Jordan Walker in Atlanta when Jordan Walker was 17, and he was blown away by how intelligent the kid was, how level-headed he was, how mature he was at 17. Like, that was a stroke of genius by Randy Flores. And, if he's not running the Cardinals, Randy Flores is going to be running the team before long.
Yeah, I'd like to see him be the successor. And that's really no disrespect intended to Michael Gersh. It's not. And he's an easy guy to kind of tease and all that. But Flores has kind of got the buzz all around him. And people – Not a lot of people will remember, I don't believe anyway, he was the winning pitcher Game 7 at Shea Stadium when the Cardinals advanced to the World Series. I said to Flo after the game, I said, teasing him because we had a good relationship, I said, all these pitchers on this staff, and you get the win? That ain't right. And he laughed. He understood where I was coming from. So he may be – this draft, to your point, this 20 draft, this may now be the thing that – nothing would have topped what Flo did getting that win that sent the Cardinals to the World Series. I think he's got something else he'll be remembered for, though, for sure.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, that 2020 draft is going to shape their future. You know, it's like you got big time players out of that, and you know, Mason Wynn. You know, Bernie, if you hadn't gotten to see Mason Wynn hit yet, he's a delightful kid. He's got this $1 million smile. He lets the ball get deep. He's not afraid to hit it the other way, and you know, he tells you, my job is to get on first base and let the big boys do the rest. And he can run like the wind. He can field the ball. You know, you put him and Jordan Walker together, that's two pillars of the organization for the next 10, 12 years.
No doubt. They're very impressive. John Denton, I appreciate the conversation as always. I look forward to your weekly visits, and I'm so glad that we do this. And I kept you on a longer time today. And next week when we do this, the Cardinals will have some, you know, more games under their belt. I'll ask you about some of your impressions about people catching your eye and things of that nature. Because with the guys leaving for the WBC, a lot of these young guys are going to be getting a real good run. So maybe we'll go over some of them next week. But I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
That's great. Anything for you, Bernie. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you. That's our friend, Mr. John Denton. Yeah, Flo's the guy.
It's amazing.
Smart dude.
He really is.
Smart dude.
Well, you were referencing him when he was pitching. It didn't take long after he left the game and started in the front office, and everybody said, this guy, you got to pay attention to him. I mean, he's been talked about a lot since he's left the game as being the guy who, if you want an executive or somebody to run your ball club, keep an eye on him.
John Mozeliak, one of the, on the list of really good things that he's done has been cultivating young management talent. You know, you look at some of the people they've got in the minor leagues, and you look at Gary LaRocque, and you look at Flores, and again, I don't want to. I just think it's terrible to kind of. And I do it because I'm always like, Gersh, get in the pickup truck. You got to go look in the dumpsters for somebody,
Yeah.
No, it's easy to kind of tease him a little bit. But Gersh is a pretty damn smart guy himself. It's just that he's got a different kind of role. He's not meant to be a front man, I don't think. I mean, to an extent, he's okay at it. But Flores, if Flores becomes the next guy, Flo's got a magnetism about him. And he's an excellent communicator, and he'll fit that role in so many ways. He's really, really smart. But Mo's been really good about recruiting younger people to develop in the management system, the baseball operations system. They're all over the minors. Why do you think these kids come to St. Louis are ready to play? I mean, there's just a lot of great instruction going on. They know how to bring these guys along. LaRocque is outstanding in terms of understanding it's okay let's move this guy up aggressively. Let's put him in a higher league than he should be in. He just has a great feel for it, so I don't think you say enough about it. Again, and I repeat, the only two disappointments since 2020, let's say, since 2000, is that they haven't really developed a big-time player since Pujols, and it's Pujols is on his own planet.
Right.
Matt Carpenter was a really, really good Cardinal, and of course I know the short attention span Nats.
Did you see him play last year?
Forgot all about.
Okay,
forgot all about 2012 through 18.
Right.
But he was really good. Two-time All-Star, whatever. And you look at his numbers, but that's about it. There just hasn't been anyone to rise to that level. Now J.D. Drew. I don't know. He was before Pujols anyway, so I don't.
Yeah.
So you go to, and they haven't developed a number one starter since Wainwright came along, and Wainwright's one of the best starting pitchers in franchise history. But they had Michael Wacha look like he might be that guy. Obviously, 2013 injuries derailed that. Although I'm glad to see him still pitching and still getting paid well. And we all thought Jack Flaherty was going to be that guy for good reason.
Yeah.
It wasn't premature hype. The guy was fourth in the Cy Young voting in 2019, had excellent numbers for about a year and a half. But, again, injury sidetracked him. So is it going to be Tink Hence? Is it going to be Graceffo? Do they have anyone in the ranks that's going to be that true number one? Could it be Flaherty bouncing back to that level? I don't rule that out. I'm doubtful. I'm skeptical, but I don't rule it out. So they have had some disappointments, but in terms of waves and waves of good major league talent, the Cardinals have done a hell of a job.
They really have. You said something about John Mozeliak developing and cultivating that front office. I know we had Bill DeWitt Jr. on. I think he's got to get credit for that, too, for this reason.
For sure.
Because, and all the credit to John Mozeliak, but John Mozeliak probably doesn't do this way unless he knows the owner says, go do your thing. I got your back. You're part. We're all in this together. If it's an owner who goes, you know what, you got a bad year or two, you're gone, pal.
No.
And he's not going to be able to, make – I don't want to use the word, it feels like a family, but a group of people who are all going in the same direction in an organization. And without that at the top, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, this is DeWitt's directive. That's why he brought in Jeff Lunau. That's why he fired Walt Jocketty. It's one of the big reasons, because Jocketty was pushing back on the things that Bill DeWitt wanted done as far as drafting, scouting, player development, advanced metrics, coming up with an eye to find great value in the draft, sort of beat other teams to, draft picks that perform above where you drafted them. I mean, they found so much value. This is actually Bill DeWitt's thing, and it just happens that John Mozeliak agrees with it, because that's what he was doing as the assistant to Walt Jocketty. Even John Mozeliak was really valuable. Well, hey, Jocko was great, man. I love him. Mm-hmm. But he was kind of stubborn in that old school way. And Bill DeWitt said, hey, look, we have to have a more efficient way to procure talent. I mean, I had so many conversations with DeWitt back then and through the years. We have to have a more efficient, sustainable way to procure talent. It can't be just like always signing free agents or banking. You have to make a trade or you're screwed if the trade doesn't work out. We want to have guys always on the move up in our system that we can build around and then supplement. And for the most part, I mean, for the large part, for sure, they've done that. But that's a Bill DeWitt thing. And it's in his blood because his father, who was a baseball executive for the St. Louis Browns, Cincinnati Reds. I think he worked at a couple other places. Bill DeWitt Sr. He was actually the owner of the Reds for a while, and he was in a big-time management job with the old St. Louis Browns. And Bill DeWitt told me the story about how Bill DeWitt is not just an owner; he's a baseball guy. And some people can laugh at that. And by the way, I don't really give a damn. Go ahead and laugh. Since he took over the Cardinals, they've been incredibly successful, and he's been involved in every decision. So I'll go with the facts. You go with the nonsense, and I think I win the argument. He would go with his father on scouting trips back in the real old school days, where you're just riding all these back roads. You're looking at some prospect in Mississippi. You're looking at some prospect in Iowa or whatever. He'd be with his father all the time on these trips. And he learned so much about scouting, and that it kind of got in his blood, this idea of like finding talent, finding it off the beaten path, finding guys that maybe other teams don't. And he's always just brought that attitude to the job. And the other thing he told me, and I thought this was awesome, that Bill DeWitt, when he was working as a really young guy for the Cincinnati Reds, maybe unofficially, he actually put together a computer program for tracking players, keeping a file
on them,
and updating and using the computer to do it, rather than all these handwritten notes. You had a whole base of prospect talk, prospect ratings, prospect grades. And this is back when nobody was using computers, so Bill DeWitt factually was like way ahead of his time. And so, if you think about that, that's really impressive. Like, he was way ahead of the curve as a young guy. And he was way ahead of the curve as an owner in changing the way teams build a roster. Everybody started to follow the Cardinals. And the only thing is that in some cases, like, other teams have gotten better at it than the Cardinals, but they're bouncing back. that 2020 draft is part of it. But Bill DeWitt, in my opinion, does not get enough credit for being a forward-thinking, innovative guy when it comes to roster construction or organizational depth and all this other stuff. He was way ahead of the curve. And I know there's people just laughing. What is he talking about? Is he drinking out there? No. It's called look up the records, okay? Look up the records.
I think most people, when they hear the word...
Or maybe we can get Bob Nutting to buy the Cardinals.
There you go.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think when most people are thinking ownership, they think spend.
Yeah.
You're not spending enough.
Of course.
There's a couple other different ways of going about it and trying to run an organization and make your organization run efficiently the way they have.
I think they need to be more aggressive, and I think they should spend more.
Agreed.
And I told him that in a conversation the other day. But that doesn't mean that you just trash everything they do when most of what they do is outstanding. It's not all or nothing. They're excellent at developing talent. They're not aggressive enough of supplementing the talent. Listen, but when they do, when they go for it, Arenado, Goldschmidt,
They've been very good at it.
But they need to do that more often. And I think the frustrating thing, as I've said on the show a lot, again, no one of sound mind is saying, hey, DeWitt, you got to show us you want to win. You got to be stupid. Just throw money at everything. Just be really dumb, and then you'll earn our respect. I mean, that's a really good way to look at it, right? I want him to do targeted spending that really makes a difference, and targeted spending that will fill a void. Like, go get Andrew Chafin this year.
The guy, right?
Things like that.
Uh-huh.
See, I don't need him to be an idiot to impress me, because he ain't signing guys to $300 million contracts, or he's not overpaying some, slightly above average player. Actually, when they don't do that well, for the most part. They make a lot of mistakes when they're throwing money around. Mike Leake
had a few left-handed relievers.
Dexter, relievers. So I know it's an interesting thing. But, when I go to sleep at night and I say my prayers quietly, it's just like, can we get Bob Nutting to buy the Cardinals?
You got to stop praying for that.
Baseball gods, can you get Bill DeWitt to sell the team to the guy, that great baseball philosopher and builder of mighty baseball clubs, Bob Nutting in Pittsburgh, who, did you see what he was saying this week?
The stealer of others' revenue guy? That guy?
He did He did his one interview that he does every year with the media in Pittsburgh, because he runs away and he hides.
Yes.
He doesn't have the guts to actually talk to the fans.
Of course not.
So, but I can look him up maybe when we come back. But he was basically saying, the current, because they formed the committee, study this revenue disparity, which is just like which is just a myth. Yeah, there's disparity, but it doesn't mean you still can't win. You get more targeted in your spending, and you can rely on player development and drafts and all that stuff. And Tampa Bay shows you can do anything.
Right.
They don't have a high payroll. But, Nutting was saying, the current this current system we have, it just it doesn't work for the Pirates. And this is not going to work. This, is basically saying, we're doomed. You're doomed because you're stealing money, metaphorically speaking, from other teams that pay you welfare, and you won't do a damn thing to try to improve your own team. And you're gonna cry. You're gonna be a fraud and cry about, this doesn't work for us. We're the poor little franchise. When did and back not that long ago when they tried to win, they won.
They did.
They won for 3 years.
They
2012, 13, 14.
They were good. They
spent money.
They spent some money.
They were smart.
It was a quality product too.
But, man, if DeWitt could only sell that team to him, we could have some good baseball in this town. Right?
I could not imagine going through 2 years, much less more of what Pittsburgh's gone through in this market.
Or we need one of the Angelos brothers in Baltimore.
There's another one.
Who destroyed the Orioles franchise.
Was it him that said he's not responsible for payroll or something the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, he's not responsible for anything.
I was like, oh.
John Angelos. I had a relative, not a distant, a cousin of mine in Baltimore that worked for him.
Really?
Woo!
Crazy man, huh?
Oh!
They had a lot of young prospects. They'll be fun to watch, though.
No. The front office is doing a good job. But just like over this past offseason, I mean, the Orioles were maybe the surprise of baseball last year.
They were?
They were in the playoff hunt. They rose from the dead, so to speak. They didn't do anything this past offseason. It's because, unlike some of the other places, whether it be Philly, whether it be the Mets, whether it be, even the Cardinals. I mean, I know they didn't do enough, but Wilson Contreras is a pretty good get. Padres, you go right on down the list. The Astros did it when they went through their rebuild, and the Cubs did it when they went through their rebuild. But when it came time where they thought, hey, we got enough here to win now, they went for it. Orioles, no. Nothing. So.
I mean, I know you grew up there when they were great. You know all the background. Knowing what's going on with the Nationals, you'd think they would want to jump on and owning that market again, right? I mean, I don't know. You know it better than I do, but I would think they would, because they could own the area if they just start winning some games again. Yeah,
it's an interesting situation when the Washington Senators folded up they folded up in D.C. and they moved to Texas, became the Rangers. Slowly but surely, the Orioles took over the D.C. market because the D.C. market didn't have a team, and a lot of baseball nuts, and I knew a lot of them. Like in suburban Washington and Northern Virginia, Washington itself, they started going to Memorial Stadium. The Orioles became their team. But I don't know that their heart was ever in it. I mean, they wanted a team of their own. They just didn't have one, and so they did the mature thing and said, well, wait a minute. Baltimore's less than an hour away. Team's great. Let's go have some fun. We love baseball. Let's go. And but I think they were waiting for their own team. So if the Nationals, when they reemerge from this rebuild, I would think that their audience, their fan base will be much stronger again. So I don't know how that'll go. We'll have to wait and see. But it's just astonishing to me that the Orioles were lost in the wilderness for so long, and now they have a chance to do something really special, and there's crickets. It's because
it's crazy.
John Angelos is not only a reprehensible human being, he's holding that franchise back. And I hate to be paranoid because I'm not one of these guys, but, there's a lot of people in Baltimore believe he really wants to move the team. Now,
really?
That's not because he lives in Nashville.
Okay.
Some of this might be sabotage. I don't want to go there, but I understand why people would be suspicious. However, that said, Rob Manfred and the other owners will never allow that clown to move to Nashville.
I hope not.
Because among other reasons, it would be morally wrong and reprehensible. But the other reason is that you have a potential expansion town there that could be really good, really, really good. You're going to give it to that?
Good point.
That arrogant clown?
No, you shouldn't.
You're going to poison that market? Nah. Bill DeWitt, there's some things that frustrate me, but take a look around baseball. Take a look at all the ne'er-do-wells who just want to collect baseball's version of a welfare payment,